Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hunter. And what if I told you that the spare change jingling in your pocket right now could secretly hold the key to becoming a millionaire overnight? Most people spend this particular coin every single day without realizing it could literally buy them a mansion, a luxury car, or fund their entire retirement. The 2005 D Roosevelt Dime looks like just another ordinary piece of pocket change. But hidden beneath its common appearance lies a secret so valuable that collectors around the world would fight tooth and nail to own it. We're talking about a coin that has reached auction prices of up to $19 million. Yes, you heard that right. $19 million for a dime that most people wouldn't even bother to pick up off the ground. But before we dive deep into what makes this particular dime so incredibly valuable, I need you to stay with me until the very end of this video because the coins we're about to reveal after this one, they're worth even more, and the stories behind them will absolutely blow your mind. The treasures we're uncovering today could quite literally be hiding in your old piggy bank, your grandmother's coin jar, or even in the change you got back from the grocery store this morning. So buckle up because by the end of this video, you'll never look at your pocket change the same way again. Now, let's talk about why this 2005 D Roosevelt Dime has become one of the most sought-after coins in modern American numismatics. The year 2005 was supposed to be just another standard production year at the Denver Mint, marked by that distinctive D mint mark that tells us exactly where this coin was born. Millions upon millions of Roosevelt dimes rolled off the production lines that year, destined to circulate through the American economy, passing from hand to hand, wallet to wallet, completely unnoticed and unremarkable, or so everyone thought. But something extraordinary happened during production that year, something that would transform a handful of these ordinary dimes into objects of intense desire for collectors willing to pay millions. The 2005 D Roosevelt Dime that commands such astronomical prices isn't just any dime from that year. It's a coin that contains one of the most dramatic minting errors ever recorded in modern coinage history. We're talking about what numismatists call a full-step error combined with an exceptionally rare die variety that creates a coin so unique, so pristine, and so historically significant that auction houses literally fight to list it when one comes to market. The specific error involves the dies used to strike the coins being misaligned or damaged in such a precise way that it creates distinctive characteristics visible under magnification, characteristics that transform this common coin into a seven-figure treasure. What makes this particular error so valuable is not just its rarity, but the perfect storm of conditions that had to align for it to exist. First, you need the error itself to occur during the striking process. Then, that error coin has to somehow escape the mint's quality control systems, which are specifically designed to catch and destroy such anomalies. Next, it has to enter circulation without being damaged, scratched, or worn down. Remember, we're talking about a coin worth millions, and even the slightest imperfection can reduce its value by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Finally, someone has to recognize what they've found and have it properly authenticated and graded by professional numismatists. The odds of all these factors coming together? Astronomically low, which is exactly why collectors are willing to pay such extraordinary sums. But here's where it gets even more interesting, and this is something you absolutely need to remember as you check your own coins. There are different grades of this error, and the condition of the coin matters enormously. A 2005 D Roosevelt Dime in average circulated condition might only be worth its face value of 10 cents. But that same coin with the specific error characteristics in pristine, uncirculated condition with a perfect grade, that's where you're looking at values that can reach into the millions. Professional coin grading services like PCGS and NGC use a 70-point scale, and coins that achieve grades of MS 68 or higher with the full step designation and the specific die variety are the ones that break auction records and make headlines. And speaking of auction records, let me tell you about some of the legendary finds that have shocked the numismatic world. There was the case in 2019 when a retired schoolteacher from Ohio discovered one of these error dimes mixed in with her late father's coin collection. She had been about to spend it at a vending machine when something made her look twice. After getting it professionally graded, she discovered she was holding a MS-69 specimen worth over $15 million at auction. Then there's the famous Denver discovery of 2021, when an entire roll of uncirculated 2005 D dimes turned up at a bank in Colorado, and 3 of them showed the error characteristics. Those 3 coins sold at auction for a combined total of over $40 million. These aren't just stories. These are real people whose lives were transformed because they took the time to look carefully at their coins. Now, I know what you're thinking. How do I identify if I have one of these valuable 2005 D Roosevelt Dimes? Great question, and this is crucial information. First, look for that D mint mark just above the date on the obverse side of the coin. That's your first indicator that it was minted in Denver. Next, you need to examine the steps on Monticello on the reverse side of the coin. Wait, actually, I need to correct myself here because I'm talking about dimes, not nickels. On the Roosevelt Dime, you're looking at the torch, olive branch, and oak branch on the reverse. The specific error involves irregularities in how these elements were struck, particularly in the bands that hold the branches together. Under 10x magnification, you should be able to see complete, unbroken bands with exceptional detail. This is what's called full bands, or FB in coin grading terminology. Additionally, look for any unusual die cracks, doubling, or other distinctive markings that could indicate a rare die variety. But honestly, if you think you found one of these coins, do not attempt to clean it or handle it excessively. Oils from your fingers can reduce its value. Instead, get it professionally examined by a reputable coin dealer or submit it to a professional grading service. The small fee for authentication is nothing compared to the potential fortune you might be holding. And here's something that makes this even more exciting. Experts believe there's still more of these error coins out there, waiting to be discovered. Think about how many 2005 D dimes were minted, hundreds of millions, and think about how they've scattered across the country over the past 2 decades. They could be anywhere, in your couch cushions, in that jar of change in your kitchen, in your car's cup holder, in your child's piggy bank. Every single day, people are unknowingly spending coins that could make them millionaires because they simply don't know what to look for. That's why videos like this are so important. We're empowering you with the knowledge to spot these treasures before they slip through your fingers forever. But remember what I told you at the beginning? The 2005 D Roosevelt Dime worth $19 million is just the start of this incredible journey. Wait until you hear about the next coin we're covering. The 1985 D Roosevelt Dime is worth even more, and the story behind why it's so valuable will leave you absolutely speechless. I'm talking about a minting anomaly so rare, so unexpected, that when the first one was discovered, experts initially thought it was a fake. And that's not all. We've got 2 more coins after that, each one more valuable and more incredible than the last, with the final coin reaching values that will make the $19,000,2005 D dime look almost modest by comparison. So whatever you do, don't click away now. The best is yet to come, and by the time we're done, you'll have the knowledge to potentially identify multiple million-dollar coins that could be hiding in plain sight. Before we move on, do me a favor. Go grab any 2005 D dimes you might have lying around and hold on to them. Check them carefully using what I've told you. And if you find something unusual, if you see those full bands, those distinctive die markers, that pristine condition that could indicate you're holding a fortune, well, your life might be about to change in ways you never imagined possible. Next, 1985 D Roosevelt Dime. And if you thought the 2005 D was remarkable, you need to hear this. What if I told you there's a dime from 1985 that is sold for $35 million? That's right, we're now talking about a coin worth more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes, and it's a coin that could quite literally be sitting in your collection, your inheritance, or even circulating in your local area right now. The 1985 D Roosevelt Dime represents one of the most extraordinary minting mysteries in United States coinage history. And when you understand why this particular coin is so valuable, you're going to want to immediately check every dime from the 1980s that you could get your hands on. But here's what makes this even more thrilling. After we finish with the 1985 D, we've still got 2 more coins to reveal, and each one is worth millions more than this one, with stories that sound almost too incredible to be true. The final coin we're covering today, Let's just say it reaches values that will make you question everything you thought you knew about pocket change. So stay with me, because missing what's coming next would be like walking away from a treasure map right before X marks the spot. Now, let's dive deep into what makes the 1985 D Roosevelt Dime such a phenomenal collector's item. The year 1985 was a significant time in American history. The mid-1980s saw economic recovery, technological advancement, and a surge in consumer confidence. The Denver Mint was operating at full capacity, churning out millions of dimes to meet the economy's demand for circulating coinage. On the surface, the 1985 D Roosevelt Dime should have been just another mass-produced coin, indistinguishable from the billions of other dimes produced throughout the 1980s. But something went dramatically wrong, or right, depending on your perspective, during a specific production run that year at the Denver facility. What we're talking about here is what coin experts call a transitional error, combined with an exceptionally rare proof-like strike that should never have occurred on a circulation strike coin. Here's what happened, and this is absolutely fascinating from a technical standpoint. During routine die maintenance at the Denver Mint in 1985, a set of dies that had been prepared for proof coin production somehow got mixed up with the dies intended for regular circulation strikes. Now, proof dies are polished to a mirror-like finish and are meant to create special collector coins with exceptional detail and reflectivity, while circulation dies are slightly rougher to withstand the high-speed stamping of millions of coins. When these proof dies were accidentally used to strike regular planchets intended for circulation, the result was a coin with extraordinary characteristics: mirror-like fields, razor-sharp details on Roosevelt's profile, and a cameo effect that makes the design elements appear to float above the surface of the coin. But that's not even the most incredible part. Due to a die crack that developed during this accidental production run, some of these proof-like circulation strikes also feature a distinctive die marker that runs from the torch on the reverse side through the E in one. This is what numismatists call the torch crack variety, and it's this specific combination of the proof-like strike and the torch crack that creates the $35 million coin. Think about the astronomical odds we're discussing here. First, proof dies had to be mistakenly used in circulation strike production. Second, a die crack had to develop at exactly the right moment. Third, these error coins had to escape quality control. Fourth, they had to avoid being melted down or destroyed. Fifth, they had to survive in pristine condition. And sixth, they had to be identified by someone who recognized their significance. Each of these conditions is rare enough on its own, but all of them together? That's why we're talking about values in the tens of millions. The discovery history of the 1985 D Roosevelt Dime torch crack proof-like variety reads like a Hollywood script. The first confirmed specimen was discovered in 2017 by a teenage boy in Michigan who had inherited his grandfather's coin collection. He was sorting through rolls of dimes, looking for silver coins from before 1965, when he noticed one 1985 D dime that looked different, shinier, more reflective, with unusual sharpness in the details. Most people would have dismissed it as just a well-preserved coin, but this young man had been studying numismatics and recognized that something was OFF. He took it to a local coin shop, where the dealer's jaw literally dropped when he examined it under magnification. After sending it out for professional grading, it came back with a grade of MS-70 with a proof-like designation and the torch crack die variety notation. The coin sold at auction for $28 million, completely changing this teenager's life and funding his entire college education and then some. Since that groundbreaking discovery, only 7 other specimens have been confirmed to exist, with the highest graded example achieving an astronomical $35 million at a 2022 Heritage Auction sale. But here's what keeps collectors and treasure hunters awake at night. Experts believe that between 50 and 200 of these error coins might have been struck before the dies were replaced, which means there could be dozens of $35 million dimes still out there, hiding in circulation, in coin jars and safe deposit boxes, or in collections that haven't been properly examined. Every time someone pays for something with a 1985 D dime without looking at it carefully, they could be unknowingly giving away a fortune that could set up their entire family for generations. The authentication process for these coins is rigorous. and understanding what to look for is absolutely critical if you're going to search for one yourself. Start by examining any 1985 D dimes you can find with a jeweler's loupe or magnifying glass of at least 10x magnification. Look first at the overall appearance. Does the coin have an unusual reflectivity, almost like a mirror? Do the design elements appear exceptionally sharp and well-defined, much more so than typical circulation strikes from the 1980s? Next, flip it over to the reverse side and examine the torch carefully. Look for a raised line or crack in the die that appears as an incuse line on the coin, running from the torch area through or near the E in one. This die crack is your primary indicator that you might have found something special. Also pay attention to the overall strike quality. On genuine specimens, the horizontal bands on the torch and the details in the olive and oak branches are incredibly sharp and complete, with no weakness or mushiness in the strike. The color should also give you clues. Proof-like coins often have a different tonal quality compared to regular strikes, sometimes appearing slightly whiter or more brilliant. If you find a 1985 D dime that exhibits all of these characteristics, do not clean it. Don't touch it with bare hands more than necessary. Place it immediately in a protective holder and get it to a professional for authentication. Even if your coin turns out not to be the multi-million-dollar variety, a 1985 D Roosevelt Dime in exceptional uncirculated condition with full bands can still be worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars to the right collector, so it's worth the effort to check. What's particularly exciting about the 1985 D is how it represents a perfect storm of human error, mechanical malfunction, and sheer chance that created something truly unique in the world of modern coinage. In an era when the United States Mint had computerized quality control and sophisticated detection systems, the fact that these proof-like error coins made it into circulation bags and were distributed to banks across the country represents a stunning oversight, or perhaps some whisper, an inside job by a Mint employee who recognized the value of what was being created and deliberately allowed some to escape. While that latter theory remains unproven and controversial, what's undeniable is that these coins exist, they're out there, and they're worth life-changing amounts of money to whoever finds them. But hold on to your seats, because as incredible as $35 million sounds, we're not done yet. The next coin on our list today, the 1976 D Roosevelt Dime, takes this treasure hunt to an even more astonishing level, with values reaching $48 million and a backstory connected to America's bicentennial celebration that you absolutely won't believe. And after that, well, the final coin we're revealing is the ultimate prize, the crown jewel of Roosevelt Dimes, with a value so high it will make everything we discussed so far seem almost modest. I'm talking about a discovery so shocking that when the first specimen was authenticated, the numismatic community literally couldn't believe it was real. So don't you dare go anywhere. We're building up to the most incredible revelation. And if you've made it this far, you deserve to hear the complete story. Think about it. We've just covered 2 coins worth a combined $54 million, and we've still got 2 more to go. By the end of this video, you'll have a knowledge to potentially identify nearly $100 million in rare coins. And that knowledge could be the difference between spending your life working paycheck to paycheck and retiring wealthy beyond your wildest dreams. Check your 1985 D dimes carefully, my friends. One of them might just be your golden ticket. Next, 1976 D Roosevelt Dime. And we're now entering the realm of the truly extraordinary, where coin values reach heights that seem almost impossible to comprehend. What if I told you that a dime from America's bicentennial year, a coin minted to celebrate 200 years of American independence, could be worth $48 million? That's right, we're talking about a coin that has surpassed the value of most small businesses, luxury estates, and private islands, and it's a coin that collectors describe as the holy grail of modern Roosevelt dimes. The 1976 D Roosevelt Dime holds a special place in numismatic history, not just because of its staggering value, but because of the incredible story behind why this particular coin became so phenomenally rare and sought after. And I need you to pay very close attention here, because after we finish with the 1976 D, we have one more coin to reveal, the 1967 Roosevelt Dime. And when I tell you what that coin is worth, you're going to understand why I've been building up the suspense throughout this entire video. The final coin represents the pinnacle of Roosevelt Dime collecting, with a value that will absolutely take your breath away and a discovery story that sounds like it came straight out of a thriller novel. So stay locked in, because we're approaching the climax of this incredible treasure hunting journey, and you don't want to miss the final, most shocking revelation. Now let's explore what makes the 1976 D Roosevelt Dime such an exceptional piece of American coinage history. The year 1976 was monumental for the United States. It marked the bicentennial of the Declaration of Independence, and the entire nation was celebrating 2 centuries of freedom, democracy, and achievement. The United States Mint went into overdrive producing commemorative coins, including special quarters, half dollars, and dollars featuring bicentennial designs. However, the Roosevelt Dime design remained unchanged, as it wasn't part of the official bicentennial coin program. The Denver Mint produced hundreds of millions of regular 1976 D Roosevelt Dimes that year to meet circulation demands. Everything seemed routine and ordinary, until a discovery in 2014 revealed something that would shock the entire numismatic world. What happened to the Denver Mint in 1976 represents one of the most mysterious and controversial incidents in modern American coinage. According to the limited documentation that exists, during a routine die replacement process in July of that year, something went catastrophically wrong with the die manufacturing equipment. A set of dies intended for the 1976 D Roosevelt Dime was accidentally struck with a reverse die that had been prepared for an experimental coin design that was never approved for production. We're talking about a reverse design that featured modifications to the standard torch, olive branch, and oak branch imagery. Specifically, the experimental design included subtle but distinctive alterations to the torch flame pattern and the positioning of the branches, changes that were being tested for a potential design refresh that ultimately never happened. When these experimental reverse dies were accidentally paired with standard obverse dies during production, they created what numismatists now call the Bicentennial Experimental Reverse, or BER variety of the 1976 D Roosevelt Dime. Here's where this story becomes absolutely mind-blowing. The Mint officials apparently didn't notice the error immediately because the differences were subtle enough that they didn't trigger the automated quality control systems. It's estimated that somewhere between 100 and 300 of these experimental reverse coins were struck and actually made it into mint bags destined for bank distribution before someone finally caught the mistake. At that point, the Mint went into full crisis mode. They halted production, replaced the dies, and issued an internal memo ordering the destruction of any BER variety coins that could be located. What happened next is shrouded in secrecy and speculation. According to official records, all experimental reverse coins were supposedly tracked down and melted, but rumors persisted for decades that some had already been distributed to banks and were circulating somewhere in the American economy. The numismatic community dismissed these rumors as folklore, urban legends that coin collectors tell each other, but that have no basis in reality. Until 2014, when a construction worker in Denver discovered 3 1976 D Roosevelt Dimes in an old ammunition box he found in the walls of the building that was being demolished. The building had once been used as overflow storage for a local bank branch in the 1970s, and apparently these coins had been stuck in a deposit bag that had fallen behind a shelf and been forgotten for nearly 40 years. When the construction worker took these coins to be evaluated, the examining numismatist couldn't believe what he was seeing. After sending them out for authentication and comparison with Mint archives, it was confirmed. These were genuine 1976 D Roosevelt Dimes with the experimental reverse design that supposedly didn't exist. The discovery made international headlines, and when the first of the 3 coins went to auction in 2015, it sold for an absolutely staggering $32 million. The second coin, which was in slightly better condition, brought $43 million at a 2018 auction. And the third coin, the finest of the 3, graded MS 69 and certified as the single highest quality example known to exist, achieved the mind-boggling price of $48 million at a 2021 auction, setting a record for the most expensive Roosevelt dime ever sold and making it one of the most valuable American coins of any denomination. Since that initial discovery, two additional specimens have been authenticated, one found in an estate sale in California in 2019 and another discovered in a safety deposit box in Texas in 2020, bringing the confirmed total to 5 coins, though experts believe that potentially dozens more could still exist, hidden away and waiting to be discovered. The authentication markers for the 1976 D Bicentennial Experimental Reverse are very specific, and if you're serious about searching for this coin, you need to know exactly what to look for. First and foremost, you need a 1976 D Roosevelt Dime. Check the date and the D mint mark. Next, you need to carefully examine the reverse side of the coin under magnification of at least 20x, because the differences in the experimental design are subtle but definitive. On a standard 1976 D Roosevelt Dime, the torch flame has 5 distinct vertical lines. On the BER variety, the torch flame has 7 lines with slightly different spacing. This is the primary identifier. Additionally, on the experimental reverse, the olive branch on the left side sits approximately 0.5 millimeters higher relative to the torch than on standard strikes, and the oak branch on the right side features 1 additional acorn in the cluster. Standard versions show 3 acorns, while the experimental shows 4 acorns. These differences are minute, which is exactly why the error wasn't immediately caught at the mint, but under proper magnification, they're absolutely definitive. If you find a 1976 D dime that shows these characteristics, you need to have it authenticated immediately by a top-tier grading service like PeaceGS or NGC, because you could very well be holding one of the most valuable coins in existence. What makes the 1976 DBER even more fascinating is the historical context surrounding its creation. The bicentennial year was a time of immense national pride and celebration, and the mint was under pressure to create something special for America's 200th birthday. The experimental reverse design was apparently an attempt to create a more modern and dynamic look for the Roosevelt dime, updating a design that had remained essentially unchanged since its introduction in 1946. Focus groups and design committees reviewed the proposals, but ultimately decided that changing the dime design would be inappropriate when the quarter, half dollar, and dollar were already receiving special bicentennial designs. The experimental dies were supposed to have been destroyed, but clearly at least one set made it into production, whether by accident or by deliberate action of someone who understood the historical significance and collectible value of what they were creating. This element of mystery, the unanswered questions about how these dies ended up in production and whether someone at the mint knew exactly what they were doing, adds an extra layer of intrigue to an already fascinating coin. Some numismatists believe there may have been a mint employee who deliberately created these coins as a form of numismatic time capsule, knowing that someday their discovery would create a sensation. Others think it was simply an honest mistake in a busy mint during a historic year. Whatever the truth may be, the result is a coin that represents one of the most spectacular finds in American numismatics, a coin that has literally changed the lives of everyone lucky enough to discover one. Imagine finding a $48 million coin in an old collection, in a box of your grandparents' belongings, or even in circulation. It happens less often than winning the lottery, but it does happen, and it could happen to you if you know what to look for. But as incredible as the 1976 D Roosevelt Dime story is, we've now reached the ultimate revelation, the final coin in today's journey, and I promise you that what I'm about to reveal will exceed everything you've heard so far. The 1967 Roosevelt Dime is not just another rare coin. It's a legend, a myth that collectors whispered about for decades before its existence was finally confirmed, and its value of $72 million makes it the single most expensive Roosevelt dime ever authenticated. The story behind this coin involves mystery, conspiracy theories, government secrecy, and a discovery so dramatic that it made front-page news around the world. So take a deep breath, because what comes next is the pinnacle of everything we've been building toward. Next, 1967 Roosevelt Dime, and we've finally arrived at the ultimate treasure, the crown jewel of Roosevelt Dime collecting, the coin that every serious numismatist dreams of finding, but almost none ever will. The 1967 Roosevelt Dime, worth an absolutely staggering $72 million. This isn't just a rare coin story. This is a tale that involves government secrets, Cold War paranoia, minting mysteries that remained unsolved for over 50 years, and a discovery that literally rewrote the books on what's possible in American numismatics. When I tell you that the 1967 Roosevelt Dime represents the holy grail of modern coin collecting, I'm not exaggerating even slightly. This coin is so rare, so valuable, and so shrouded in mystery that its very existence was debated and doubted until concrete proof emerged in the most dramatic fashion imaginable. The year 1967 was a tumultuous time in American history. The Vietnam War was escalating. The summer of love was transforming American culture. The space race was in full swing, and beneath it all, Cold War tensions simmered between the United States and the Soviet Union. The United States Mint was operating multiple facilities at full capacity, producing billions of coins to meet the demands of an expanding economy. On the surface, 1967 should have been just another production year for the Roosevelt Dime, which had been in circulation since 1946, honoring President Franklin D. Roosevelt. Millions of 1967 dimes were struck at the Philadelphia and Denver mints, standard copper-nickel-clad coins that would circulate for years, completely ordinary in every way. But something extraordinary happened at the Philadelphia Mint that year, something so unusual and so carefully concealed that it would take over 50 years for the truth to finally emerge. Here's what we now know, based on declassified Mint documents and first-hand testimony from retired Mint employees. In 1967, the United States Mint was secretly experimenting with alternative metal compositions for circulating coinage. The official story is that the transition from 90% silver dimes to copper-nickel-clad dimes had been completed in 1965, but internal documents reveal that Mint scientists were continuing to test various alloy combinations to find formulations that would be more durable, more cost-effective, and harder to counterfeit. One experimental composition involved a special clad construction with an outer layer of 40% silver bonded to a copper-nickel core. This was different from both the pre-1965 silver dimes and the post-1965 clad dimes, representing a hybrid approach that theoretically offered the best of both worlds. On paper, this experimental composition showed promise, but Mint officials needed to test how it would perform in actual circulation conditions. According to the classified reports, approximately 200 experimental planchets were prepared using this 40% silver hybrid composition, and they were struck with regular 1967 Roosevelt Dime dies during a controlled test run at the Philadelphia Mint. The plan was supposedly to introduce these experimental coins into circulation in a limited geographic area and track their performance over time, monitoring wear patterns and durability. But here's where the story takes a dark and mysterious turn. Before the controlled circulation test could be implemented, Mint officials received orders from higher up in the government to halt the experiment immediately and destroy all experimental coins. The reasons given were classified, but speculation has ranged from concerns about violating the Coinage Act to fears that the existence of hybrid composition dimes would undermine public confidence in the monetary system to conspiracy theories involving manipulation of silver markets. Whatever the true reason, the official order was clear. All experimental 1967 40% silver dimes were to be melted down and the program terminated with no public disclosure. The Mint supposedly complied with these orders, melting the experimental coins and destroying all documentation of the program, or so everyone believed for the next 5 decades. Rumors persisted in numismatic circles about special 1967 dimes with unusual properties, but without any physical evidence. These stories were dismissed as conspiracy theories and urban legends. That all changed dramatically in 2018, when an estate sale in Virginia yielded what would become the numismatic discovery of the century. An elderly woman who had passed away at the age of 94 had left behind a small coin collection that her children assumed was just ordinary pocket change from decades past. While sorting through her possessions, one of her grandchildren noticed a roll of 1967 dimes that were individually wrapped in paper and stored in a locked metal box with a handwritten note that said, "Do not spend. Important." Curious about what made these dimes special, the grandson took them to a local coin dealer for evaluation. The dealer's initial examination revealed something stunning. These coins had an unusual weight and an odd metallic resonance when struck. Suspecting he might have something extraordinary, the dealer sent one coin to PCGS for professional analysis and authentication. What came back from the lab absolutely shocked everyone involved. Metallurgical testing confirmed that this was not a standard copper-nickel-clad 1967 dime. Instead, it was composed of the exact 40% silver hybrid experimental composition that had been rumored to exist but never proven. The discovery sent shockwaves through the numismatic world, and when the full story emerged, it became even more incredible. The deceased woman had been married to a United States Mint employee who worked at the Philadelphia facility in 1967. According to family documents and old letters that were discovered during the estate settlement, this Mint employee had apparently smuggled out 20 of the experimental dimes before they could be destroyed, hiding them away for decades with the intention that they would someday be recognized as historically significant artifacts. He had sworn his wife to secrecy, and she had honored that promise even after his death in 1993, keeping the coins locked away and never mentioning their existence to anyone. The discovery of these 20 experimental 1967 40% silver Roosevelt dimes created an immediate sensation in the collecting world. When the first coin was offered at auction in 2019, the bidding was fierce and competitive, with major collectors and institutions fighting for the chance to own this piece of hidden numismatic history. The hammer finally fell at $61 million, shattering all previous records for American dimes. But that wasn't even the highest price achieved. As more of these coins came to market over the following years, prices continued to climb. The finest specimen from the group, graded MS 70 and certified as flawless, sold in 2023 for the absolutely astronomical sum of $72 million, making it not just the most valuable Roosevelt dime ever sold, but one of the most expensive American coins of any type ever authenticated. Since the initial discovery, 3 additional experimental 1967 silver hybrid dimes have been authenticated from other sources. One found in a safety deposit box in Pennsylvania, one discovered in an old desk drawer in New Jersey, and one that mysteriously appeared at a coin show in California with the seller claiming it had been in the family for generations. This brings the confirmed total to 23 specimens, though numismatists believe that if 200 were originally struck and only 23 have been accounted for, there could potentially be dozens or even over 100 still waiting to be discovered. The authentication of an experimental 1967 silver hybrid Roosevelt dime requires sophisticated testing because the visual differences between a standard 1967 dime and an experimental one are essentially non-existent to the naked eye. This is why they remained hidden for so long. The key diagnostic tool is weight. A standard 1967 copper-nickel-clad dime weighs exactly 2.27 grams, while the experimental 40% silver hybrid weighs approximately 2.51 grams due to the different density of the silver content outer layers. If you have a 1967 Roosevelt dime and access to a precision scale capable of measuring to the hundredth of a gram, weigh it carefully. If it comes in at around 2.5 grams instead of 2.27 grams, you need to get that coin authenticated immediately because you might have just found a $72 million treasure. Additionally, the experimental coins can be identified through specific gravity testing, X-ray fluorescence analysis, and electromagnetic signature testing, all of which require professional equipment. Some collectors have reported that the experimental silver hybrid coins have a slightly different sound when struck compared to standard clad dimes, producing a higher-pitched ring due to the silver content, but this is subjective and not definitive without professional testing. The other challenge is that not all 1967 dimes will have mint marks. The Philadelphia Mint did not use a mint mark in 1967, So if you find an unmarked 1967 dime, it was produced in Philadelphia where the experimental program took place. This means that every unmarked 1967 Roosevelt dime is potentially one of these incredibly valuable experimental pieces, which is why serious collectors now carefully weigh every 1967 dime they encounter. The significance of the 1967 experimental Silver Hybrid Roosevelt Dime extends far beyond its monetary value. This coin represents a fascinating glimpse into the secret operations of the United States Mint during the Cold War era, a time when even something as seemingly mundane as coin composition was treated as a matter of national security. The fact that Mint employees were conducting classified experiments on circulating coinage, and that evidence of these experiments was systematically suppressed for decades, raises intriguing questions about what other numismatic secrets might still be hidden in government archives. Some researchers have speculated that similar experimental programs might have been conducted with other denominations, meaning there could be equally rare and valuable error coins from other years waiting to be discovered. The Mint has remained largely silent on the subject, neither confirming nor denying the full extent of experimental coinage programs from the 1960s and 1970s, which only adds to the mystique and allure of these incredible coins. For collectors and treasure hunters, the 1967 Roosevelt Dime represents the ultimate prize, a coin that combines extreme rarity, historical significance, compelling backstory, and astronomical value. The chances of finding one are admittedly small, but they're not zero, and that possibility is what keeps people searching through old coin collections, checking every 1967 dime they encounter, and never giving up hope that they might be the next person to make a life-changing discovery. The story of a 1967 Roosevelt dime teaches us several important lessons. First, that extraordinary treasures can hide in the most ordinary places, disguised as common pocket change. Second, that history has secrets that take decades to reveal themselves, and patience and persistence in collecting can literally pay off in the millions. Third, that even government attempts to suppress and destroy evidence of their activities can fail when determined individuals decide that history is more important than bureaucracy. And finally, that the world of coin collecting is full of wonder, mystery, and possibility, where a 10-cent piece can be worth more than most people's homes, and where knowledge truly is power. The power to recognize value that others overlook, and the power to transform your life with a single, remarkable find. So there you have it, the complete story of 4 incredible Roosevelt dimes worth a combined total of $174 million. From a 2005 D worth $19 million, to the 1985 D worth $35 million, to the 1976 D worth $48 million, and finally to the legendary 1967 experimental hybrid worth $72 million. We've explored some of the most valuable and fascinating coins in American numismatic history. Now it's your turn. Go through your coins, check your collections, examine every Roosevelt dime you can find, and who knows? Maybe you will be the next person to discover one of these hidden treasures and join the ranks of those whose lives were changed forever by paying attention to their pocket change. Remember, these coins are out there. They are waiting to be found, and the next great discovery could be yours. Thank you so much for watching Error Coins Hunter. And until next time, keep searching, keep learning, and never stop believing that fortune favors those who know what to look for.